Sawadee Gab. February 23rd. Heading back to Pi today. That's should be a short-term stay up there. Did pick one. My buddy Mike, like I said, was working from home. Mike Smithgall, Yummy Land. Go check out his YouTube channel, Yummy Land. And during COVID, the lockdown number one. Right, because there's phases now. There's like lockdown 1, lockdown 2. Probably there'll be a 3. Why not? Just fuck with our livelihoods more. But anyway, he had quite a bit of time on his hand when he first started working from home. I guess his bosses hadn't caught up with the idea that, you're more productive when you're working from home, so they could give you more work. So he took a lot of my raw footage that I just record on my phone and upload, which, all the positive action plans have not been edited. I just record them and throw them up. So some of the ones of me making gyros at the restaurant, me, the girls making a banana shake, me testing 2 types of bananas, what else, going to the market. He took the raw footage, I put it up in Dropboxed or Google Drive or whatever, and he took it and spent hours, which is insane to me, but he was bored, editing those videos and making them look good and professional and funny and all that stuff. So I shot a shitload of condos. I saw, I don't know, eight or 9 condos, and I just felt that's something that a lot of people would be interested in, like renting a condo in Chiang Mai. That's what most people do. So I sent all the raw footage last night, which is, the following morning for you guys, or that morning, the previous morning, I should say, over to Mike, uploaded it like I used to in Dropbox. So he's going to tackle that project, and y'all will see a finished video on all the different, and it's all just one complex. It took all day to see 8 or 9 condos in one complex where you literally walk up and down the street, condo. So that's coming soon, and it will be entertaining to watch because Mike is really good at editing and making the video look professional. So look forward to that one. But the sneak preview or whatever, I did find one, and that's where I'll be living in March. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I can't wait for phase 2. Speaking of phases, phase 2 for me here in Thailand. So anyway, the 23rd. If you work as hard at the task you desire to do, if you work as hard at the task you desire to do as the task you must do, you will go places. Okay, I'm with him. He's got me so far. He's got some street cred, so I'm hanging in there. It's been said that you should always work at 2 jobs simultaneously, the one you have and the one you desire. Now we're getting somewhere. There you go. My boy is finally seeing things my way. I finally talked him into being an entrepreneur. When you work as hard at the task you want to do as the task you must do, you are preparing yourself for the future. You are learning skills that will enable you to grow beyond your present position and into your boss's job or into your own job. Yes. And your boss's job. When the time comes, you'll be ready. When you've mastered one task, don't rest on your laurels. Instead, begin immediately to think about the future, about how you can improve what you're doing now and what you can learn that will allow you to progress in the future. Ours is a knowledge-based economy in which intellectual property is worth far more than physical goods. Most of you know that anyway, but it's good to hear and read and absorb. To succeed today requires continuous learning, absolutely. Staying current in your field means a lifetime of study in our fast-paced world. So, once again, just relating it to life as I know it. And yes, Jeffrey, I'm touching my face again. Jeffrey pointed out that I touch my face a lot in my videos. I'm rubbing sleep out of my eyes. I'm scratching my ear or whatever. Right now I'm scratching my back. It is what it is. Don't let Mike's edits fool you. I am not a professional anything really except goofball. But yeah, relaying it back to my days in IT, information technology programming. I started in 1989 in the mainframe world. Big old computers that took up, whole rooms, and they programmed them with punch cards. And I mean, it's ancient technology, right? And COBOL, common business oriented language, COBOL it was called. And that was a programming language that was around from the 70s, and it was still alive in the 90s when I got into IT, into programming. There I am touching my face again. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, so as soon as I got into that field, it was the death of the mainframe. Like, people just really didn't use, even big companies weren't using mainframes anymore, because right around that time is when PCs came into prominence, and Bill Gates borrowed technology from Apple. Steve Jobs had created Apple, and it was fantastic, and it was big, and Bill Gates got money from another person, Paul Allen, the guy who owned the Seahawks for a while, or the Seattle Supersonics, I think it was. He used somebody else's money because he was a loser and had no money, and stole Apple's, system and the interface and all that, and copied it. He didn't invent anything, and made Windows, right? And he sold to corporations, whereas Apple sold to the people. And who wins? Who's got more money, corporations or people? Duh. So if you want to give that little fucking scumbag, evil twit credit, that's he had the idea. Yeah, rubbing the eye, getting the sleep out. He had the idea to market this new contraption to businesses, as opposed to, he went corporate where the money is. Imagine that. And so he made a shitload of money off of Steve Jobs' hard work and ingenuity and inventiveness and all that stuff. Now he wants to give you vaccines, and he wants you to eat synthetic beef, and he's buying up. COVID, the lockdown, created a lot of cheap land. I talk all the time here in Thailand about how it's half price for everything. The condos, everything's half price, and he's taking advantage of that half price and buying up a shitload of land in America. Yeah. But he's your friend. He has your best interest in heart. So anyway, the technology changed rapidly once the PC was introduced, and the study I had put in and the years of experience I had being a mainframe programmer, COBOL, and there was a technology called DB2 back in the day. That was database technology, and that's what's funny is that was cutting edge in the early 80s. So it just had kind of come in. It wasn't around in the 70s, so in the late 80s DB2 came in, and people there weren't really any experts in it, and I jumped on that, and I did it for about 6 months, and my next job was working with that database as a back end. COBOL was like the front end language, the interface to programmers to use, and programming large amounts of data. My first job was with AT&T, which had huge amounts of data, right, before they got broken up into what they call the baby bells, Bell South and Bell, whatever, Pac Bell, all the different baby bells. So no sooner did I learn the predominant language on the PC, which was like Power Builder, and the database. There's usually two parts. There's the front end, right, that people interface with on the computer, and the forms, you put in data, and then there's the back end, which is your database. So it went from COBOL and DB2 on the mainframes to Power Builder, and Oracle was a pretty big up-and-coming company on the back end. The database was Oracle, which is, I think, still around. But they were the major player when this thing first came out. But let's see, Bill Gates, right? He doesn't innovate anything. He, got his own version of Power Builder out, and it was called Microsoft Visual Basic. A visual form, generator type thing of the basic language, which is early computer language. And once again, so corporations focused on corporations. Hey, you've got Microsoft Windows, you need Microsoft Visual Basic to do your development work, and that quickly became the thing. Just like Windows I mean, Apple's still around, and Apple fought a good fight. And frankly, it's a superior product, especially if you're doing music or arts or painting or picture, anything artistic. Apples are still better than Windows, to this day, for music and stuff like that. But anyway, he gained huge amounts of market share with Windows, and he dominated in Visual Basic. So if I wanted to work in the field, which I did, I had to quickly transition from Power Builder over to Visual Basic. I figured I'll learn them both, and I'll have both tools in my tool belt. But there was no demand for Power Builder after the first year or two. I was in IT and had shifted over from mainframes to client server is what they called it, PC based. So then, just when I really got right, I shouldn't say just when, it wasn't that fast now. Going from mainframes to client server happened very quick, like within a year or two. I only had like one 6 month to a year contract doing mainframe stuff as a contractor, consultant, and very quickly all the jobs became client server. And it was about a 7-year run, I would say, with Visual Basic. 7 years, 8 years, something like that. I became an expert in Visual Basic. Used to do technical interviews for firms on Visual Basic. I've been doing it for a long time. I was making good money. I knew it in and out. They came out with different versions, and I learned each version. And the database also, Microsoft, fucking Bill Gates. He took over from at Oracle as the #1 back-end database because it was Microsoft SQL Server, it was called. That was your database to use with Visual Basic. And once again, he sold to corporations. He sold to the big boys, so it was everywhere. And all the jobs were in Microsoft Visual Basic and Microsoft SQL Server as the back-end, as your database. So I became experts in both of those and made a good living, 6-figure income for many years. And then, just when I was fat and happy and comfortable and, knew my craft and knew all the tricks of the trade and knew the thing in and out, put my 10,000 hours in, reached expert level, they changed the technology again to web-based. So now you had to learn HTTP and XML and, C#, C++, just all new technology came in with the wave. And then as soon as you learned all those initial things like XML and HTTP, they were new. Now then came JavaScript, and then came, it's like the web development stuff reinvented itself every 6 months. There was always a new technology to learn with the web. It didn't stay static. Building web pages was there was no 7-year experts in web development because the technology kept changing every 6 months. I was talking about teaching an old dog new tricks. Oh my God, I was it was challenging because, like I said, you couldn't get a really good run like I had with Visual Basic, where that was the dominant player in the market. There was always new technology. Plus, after 10 years in an industry, you expect to make a certain amount of money. Which $50 an hour was the standard rate. That's $100,000 a year, and I was getting $75 an hour because I've been in a long time. I was an expert in the field. Well, here comes the web technology. It's 6 months old, so I can't pull $75 an hour from the web technology because I've only been exposed to it for 6 months. So as a kid just out of school, making $30,000 a year. All right, you see how it was the great equalizer. So all my experience of programming for 10 years meant nothing. Because how much do you have of, the new technology? Oh, well, 6 months. It's only been around for 6 months. Okay, we'll pay you like a 6-month person. In other words, they could hire 2 guys for what it costs to hire me. Well, you're going to hire the 2 young guys. Why would they pay $60 or $75 an hour when they could pay 2 guys $30,000 a year? And the 2 guys are happy to make the $30,000 a year because it's their first job out of school, right? So, and around that same time, this is when I'm in programming 10, 11 years, something like that, 12 years, toward the end of my career in IT, they started outsourcing to India because they found it's much, much cheaper labor overseas than it is domestically. So they got to the point where they didn't even want to hire the 2 new guys for $30K. They would hire an outsourcing company for $200K and get 20 developers. You know what I mean? And the developers weren't making 10K. The company was making most of that 200K, and they'd pay their people like 1K, you know, if that, you know what I mean? So yeah, just cheap labor. And they'd have these, just like they have call centers, they have these giant IT centers, and all these Indians would come to work for pennies on the dollar, and the companies would make a shitload of money that our companies paid, you know, 200 grand a year for, but they get 20 developers, and here you could not get 20 developers for 200K. Hell, sometimes they had 200 developers. I mean, it was insane, the amount of manpower they could get. So were they as skilled and experienced as we were? Hell no, but they were way cheaper. And that's all. Remember I talked about the 80s and the economy and how it shifted to the shareholder value and all that. It's all about cheaper, not better. And I also referenced Bank of America being famous for hiring 9 pregnant women to have a baby in 1 month. And that's exactly what corporations did. This was in the early 90s. So I was doing business brokerage at one point, and came across, you know, businesses for sale. I was helping people buy and sell businesses as a side hustle. Really, starting in 96. So in doing that, I found a pizza place down in St. Johns County that was cheap. It was a good deal for the amount of business. The owners were just, there was 2 partners, and the partners weren't getting along, which happens a lot, and they were both burnt out. One of them had another job, a full-time job, and it's just, you know, it's hard to run a restaurant and have a full-time job. So he was burnt out. The lady who was partners with him, they weren't getting along with the partners. There was personality differences there. There's a myriad of reasons that houses are for sale, businesses are for sale. So I took the leap. I was working for Bank of America. Imagine that, not as an employee, but as a contractor. And there was 32 of us in the group, and they decided to, corporate, Bank of America up in North Carolina, decided to take our project, our phase 2 of our project that we had created, and turn the maintenance over. So we did all the hard work, we created the code, and instead of letting us maintain it like you normally would back then, they sent that out to a big company in India to maintain phase 2 and make the improvements, make the tweaks that normally we would have. So they laid off 25 out of 32 people in that department. Just kept like a skeleton crew behind, you know, to help manage what the Indians receive the code, whatever, tweak it, tune it, test it, you know, that kind of thing. And with that 25 letting go, all the contractors go. And that's just the rule. You make 100K, the employees make 30, 40, 50, you're the first to go. You understand that when you're an independent contractor, 1099, you are going to be the first to go. You're the most expensive. You know, it's going to be top down when it's time to release people. That's part of the gig. I'm okay with that. But out of that 25 who got let go, a lot were employees who had worked there for 12 years. You know, so no, that's not good. The almighty dollar, man. Greed. You know, just gotta have that money. Gotta make billions instead of millions. Poor men want to be rich. Rich men want to be king. And a king ain't satisfied till he rules everything. Bruce Springsteen. True. So, yes, with this, we talk about doing another job. I had to constantly relearn, and I was tired of that. You know, I could see the writing on the wall. I was having trouble getting 60 to 70 an hour, 75 like I used to, especially in Florida. When I moved to Florida, the rates were lower. So I was working more consistently for 50 an hour. And you're like, well, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but that's less than I was making. I'd worked my way up to 75 an hour, 150,000 a year. And now to go down to 60, 120,000 a year, and then down to 50, 100,000 a year, it's like I'm going the wrong direction. And so when I saw the pizza place for sale, I took my savings and I bought it. And it was a blessing and a curse because I love food. I love making food. I love creating menu items. But a restaurant, as I relearned last year, is just hard work and not a lot of money. Most restaurants clear 10 to 15 cents on every dollar. So you're working your balls off insane hours to get 10 to 15 cents on the dollar. The whole plan with the restaurant I bought here in Thailand was to have a general manager, keep the staff that was there. They're already well trained. They know what to do. They don't need training. They don't need supervision. Have the cameras, have the computer system for accountability and reduce, theft or whatever. And COVID obviously destroyed all that. You don't need a POS system if you have no sales. So there is that. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today. I'm already close to the 20-minute mark again, but that was my experience in IT and how I had to keep learning new technologies. I saw the writing on the wall. It was too easy to replace me at the end of my career after 13 years in. I couldn't command the same type of salary as new technologies came out. And yeah, I became functionally obsolete, so that's when I bought the pizza place. Now, the good thing, I said it was good and bad, a blessing and a curse. The good thing is that sort of started me on my entrepreneurial bent, and except for a short stint where I met Mike Smithgall, who I said is going to do the videos, working for AOL in a call center in retention. When you try to cancel AOL, they're like, no, stay here. Here's a free month. I did that for, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months, I honestly don't remember at this point, just to get the benefits, because I'd been working for myself since I bought the pizza place and I had no benefits. So I wanted health benefits at that point. I wanted to go to the doctor, get checked up, whatever. I hadn't had my heart attacks yet or any of that stuff. And I specifically took the job at AOL just to get health benefits, because they started right away there, as opposed to 60 days, 90 days like a lot of companies. AOL did have good benefits. Otherwise, they sucked. They were charging $24 for dial-up when everybody else was charging $14 for high speed at the time, which that high speed was much slower than now, but whatever, you get the point. They were overcharging for the the old-fashioned dial-up in the beginning of the whole thing. They were still pimping that out when I worked for them and Mike worked for them, $24 a month, which is insane, but whatever. So that's it for today. And of course, as I was reading it, you knew where I was going, that, as an entrepreneur, I did a whole video on side hustle. So just, when he talks about being your boss or being your boss's boss and doing their job, I relate that to side hustle. Do exactly what the book said, but instead of looking for your boss's job, look for your own job. Do your own business, flip, whatever. Stock market. A side hustle could be working the stock market or the crypto. Just make sure you know what the fuck you're doing, because those are very volatile and you can lose everything, right? I like flipping real estate better because at the end of the day you have an asset, right? You have a condo or a house. That might not sell as much as you thought. It might go down in value. You might not make as much money on a deal, but you've got an asset. The house is not going to be worth zero tomorrow, no matter what happens in the fucking world, COVID or any other crazy shit. The house still has value because it's a house and it's an asset. The value goes up and down. I get it, believe me, I understand, but it's not going to tank and be worth nothing. So that's why I prefer real estate to the other side hustles. But to each his own. You find what works for you.